City of Washington Parks and Recreation Commission, roll call.
Bob Zurich,
Present.
Bob Kleppel,
Here.
John Freitag,
Here.
Kevin Creedy,
Here.
Tessie Steffens, Sparky Stuckenschneider,
Here.
Jeannie Miller Wood,
Here.
Dave Waymeyer,
Here.
Betty Warner,
Here.
Gavin Woolley, Tim Pepsel, Jeff Packey.
Here.
All right.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for our April 9th meeting.
I make a motion.
Motion by Betty and second by Jeannie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Wayne, want to give us your last report?
Last report, yeah. Let's see, so I got a variety of things here. You all were invited, I know it was kind of short notice, but ribbon cutting at the senior center on Friday, so hopefully some of you guys can make it. It's kind of a different one, it's in the middle of the day because that's when the seniors are at the senior center. They're usually gone by 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so if you can make it, we'd love to have you. It was one thing we wanted to get off the checklist right after they got moved in, so that's why we're doing it now. Master plan, I'm still, I've gotten delayed on that. Putting the final touches on it, and we'll talk about a little bit of that here in a minute in a different report, but getting that to PDS, the master plan firm, just some minor edits, nothing major, just some things I had questions on. They did submit a staffing report that was not in the report when we all met on April 2nd, so that's what we'll talk about in a little bit. And then after I get the final edits in, then it just has to go to council for acceptance into the minutes and to be a working document then, so. Appreciate everyone's help on that, all the meetings that were attended, the selection committee and the working committee, and then all your input and everything like that. So if you do have any questions on it, or need a copy of the pre-final draft, let me know and I can get you a copy, or we can discuss whatever you need, but you better get to me before the 23rd of this month, so. Main stage, I imagine some of you guys attended the East Central concert on Friday of last week. Very well attended, looked like everything went well. I mean, from what I heard, everything went well. Saw some pictures of people on the stage with lights on it, looked very neat. And so I just got the punch list today for that project, and so we'll be working with the construction company and engineering company to get those all those things crossed off here in short time. So be trying to grow a little bit of grass, and then I believe the fair board, i.e. Sully, who's not necessarily on the fair board but involved with the fair, got some sod donated, I heard. So we'll probably have the front of the stage, we'll probably have some sod on it in preparation for the fair, so which will be good. I know some of you asked about this in the past. Flower barrels are out around town, but in particular they're on the new parking lot down at the riverfront. So with those islands, each island in that new parking lot has 2 barrels of flowers, kind of dress it up a little bit. I know some of you, because some of you asked me about it and I just haven't gotten to it. MDC is part of our cooperative agreement that we have with the Conservation Department. They did fish testing a couple weeks ago at the lake. I stopped by and I didn't actually get to talk to them. They were up against the shore and they showed me that picture of that catfish, and I haven't gotten the final report or anything like that, but they said they caught some very nice sized bass and obviously some nice sized catfish, and overall my impression is that the health of the lake is in good shape. So, and then Cole Miller House, I can't remember if I told you this or not, but cleanup, smoke restoration, and the window that was all burned up, that's almost complete. The smoke restoration part of it, the house has been cleaned. It no longer smells like smoke anymore. So that's done. We're just waiting on the carpenter to finish up the window. And then we're also working on right now, currently, like this week, getting cameras. That's one place we need cameras. I think we have about 5 of them to install up there around that area. That's something we've been wanting to do for many years, but we didn't have access, so we had to spend some money to get access up the hill to be able to have wireless cameras up there. And so we did that, and so we ordered the cameras. Now we're just getting them installed. And so we have some there. There's 16 cameras we have to install this spring around town. So there, fairgrounds, passenger depot, places, farmers, there's one at Farmers Market. So working on that with Water Department Superintendent. He's helping us out there. And I think that's it for my report. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Coal Miller property, that one, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I didn't raise your hand.
That's okay. I went to Catholic school.
Okay. I did too, look at my earlobes.
It's just a quick question, but, you know, we've talked about that for years, to have some cameras at the Angel of Hope, but I don't think we've had any issues with vandalism there, have we? At the
No, not
Angel?
there. We haven't.
Okay.
Not that I know of any.
Okay.
Was that recent or? Oh,
What was it? Oh. Okay.
nothing
No.
major, thank
Right.
goodness. So,
So will the camera at the Cole Miller house catch anything?
Yeah,
over
do
in
you-
Of Hope?
No, they won't.
It won't go that far?
We'd have to run it up the hill to really get anything close enough.
Okay.
I was wondering, that fire at the Coal Miller house, that was arson, correct? Did they catch him?
no, never, nothing, no leads or anything. Yeah, it happened twice within a matter of 3 or 4 weeks, but no, nothing.
Okay. Communication from the audience?
I didn't
Yeah.
ask, but apparently Jeff did, so I'm gone.
You're gone.
I'm not on this anymore, so I just came because it was Wednesday.
Oh, wasn't that nice?
But do you want to speak?
That was
That's
so
what he's
nice.
asking you, basically.
Please come to the microphone to speak. You know.
We need your name and your address, please.
We have to say goodbye to you also in addition?
Oh, my God.
It's like,
You don't even have to acknowledge me.
Okay, old business? Mike?
Yeah, old business, trail connection at Riverfront, so that phase 1, which is the restroom project's begun. As I told you in the past, we were hoping that it was gonna start last winter, but the, just delays with the paperwork and not the paperwork, but getting the paperwork approved, didn't happen over the winter, so now it's happening now. We thought we were gonna be able to keep a portion of the existing restrooms open, but once we did a site walkthrough with the construction company, they said it wasn't gonna be possible, so we have portable restrooms down there now, 2, and then the plan up until an hour ago was to have 2 down there during normal days, and then like sunset on the Riverfront events, bring in 4. But the porta potty company told us, I guess Monday after the weekend, both of them were pretty full. So now we're gonna put 4 down there all week long and see how, we have a sunset on the Riverfront coming up on Thursday of next week. See how we do with 4 of them during that event. And then after that event, if we need to bring another one down there during the event, then we would. But going forward, I guess we'll just, and this is only hopefully until August, we'll have 4 down there at the Riverfront for people to use. And everything's pushing along with that. And then I tried to keep the project going, signed the paperwork with Cochran, who's doing the engineering and helping us out with the process, with the construction and bidding process. For this phase 2, which would begin in our new fiscal year, so after October 1st. The goal is to get all the paperwork approved and the project bid out and tell the winner of the bid, you can't start until after October 1, and then when October 1 hits, to be able to get a shovel in the ground. And so then we're doing the actual trail connection around the Flag Plaza and in front of the pavilions during the winter time, like early fall, October, November, December, and try to get that knocked out definitely before the spring next year. And then in conjunction with that project would be the renovation of Flag Plaza also. And we received that donation, the anonymous donation, that'll help out greatly with that, so. That's kind of where we are with that project.
Okay. The amphitheater, let's see. New
Okay.
business, you wanna start on that?
Yeah. Do you all want to have a ribbon cutting at the playground, new playground? And I'm only throwing this out, I don't really care one way or the other, but if we did it before I leave, probably Monday's the only day I could do it. I asked Darren if he thought that was fine or okay, and he said, yeah, it probably would be fine. He asked what time, I said maybe 5:30 or 6, because there's a city council meeting at 7 that night, so council could attend if they'd like. I just don't know how that works for your guys, if anyone would be able to make it. Like I said, we don't have to rush on my part, like,
What's the Optimus say?
we put in the new playground at Optimus Park.
No, I mean, would they be there?
Oh, I forgot. Everything's been moving so fast, I forgot to, I forgot to ask them about that. I can check and see if we can get someone there.
Yeah, that
But
would
I didn't
be-
know if, if the date works for you all. If it doesn't, then it can happen after I'm gone, or, sometime in June, or maybe you don't even want to have it. I don't, it's up to you guys, but.
I think it'd be key to have that's the 19th.
They
Yes.
have,
Yeah,
they have
the-
their
yeah,
bike rodeo on Saturday, but that wouldn't hurt it, I don't think. I mean, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, I couldn't make it on the 19th, I know that.
I can't either.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe it might be too rushed, so
Yeah.
we can put it off a couple weeks, and that'll give us probably some time to fully get the site ready.
Well, you could drive out for Chesterfield.
Yeah,
if you
sure.
want to.
Sure.
Chesterfield's close.
The amphitheater roof ribbon cutting?
Oh, yeah, so Casey sent out to Park Board an invite to the ribbon cutting at the main stage, and so on this one, JB was wanting to do a ribbon cutting for the Fair Board and all those people that she's involved with prior to their summer mixer, which is June 5th, and so the city wanted to just kind of piggyback off that, and so we would do a ribbon cutting with them out there at 5 o'clock on June 5th. And so you all were invited then to that ribbon cutting, and then also the summer mixer afterwards, which would start at 6 there under the Swine Pavilion. So hopefully, I think Casey was taking care of who can attend and got that to the city clerk and everything like that. So you don't have to attend the mixer, but if you'd like, it's available for you and your spouse or significant other. And but we'd love to have you at the ribbon cutting on the 5th at 5. So,
I'll be there. Next is the stabilization of the riverfront bay, west of the docks.
I just want to let you know that I didn't make the last city council meeting, but I know Charles, city engineer, briefed council on a plan for that area down there, and the plan would be to, if the river, and it would be now, basically, or ASAP, if the river drops low enough where they can get access to the lower part down there, they would start rocking, like the worst area where the tree kind of sunk and stuff slid off, the bank slid off there. They would start with that area and do, I think 3 or 4 different areas over time, but that one would be the first area that they would rock and try to get some stabilization going there. And then we still do have the tree bank stabilization thing I was working on too. I'm gonna try to submit for the grant before I leave. regardless, we can still do, the city can still do that project, the tree planting project. We just need a budget for money, or budget for the trees in the next fiscal year, or as money comes available, so.
Is there a certain level it has to be at before you do the rocks?
There is, and I don't know what that is,
It's not a magic number, but it's a matter that it's low enough where you can get down, excavate out, and get a good shelf to start your shot rock on. So we're not just dumping on top of silt and into the water.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the plan, that's the plan.
Okay.
Historically, it's, in the wintertime, it usually does happen that way, and it's probably easier to get down there. That's probably the plan, but, you're not gonna stop the river
Can't
from
count
running.
on Mother Nature for
That's right.
everything.
So that is,
She always wins.
that's the optimum time. And again, Wayne's right, it was designated like 1, 2, and 3, the worst, the next worst, And I know some of the boat dock owners are gonna be frustrated, because some of their shoring is jeopardized right now. But we can't just dump rock into the river and not have a plan. You gotta have it where you're gonna be able to shore it up and do it right, so,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Passenger depot, the east side, green space.
Yeah, I wanted to show this. Been working with engineering on this, and this is the area on the screen here where, I don't know, what we called it where the old H tower was, the old railroad telecommunication tower that they had. Tower went down in 2 Januaries ago, I guess, maybe. And then we just had the mulch bed there like we usually do. And then last fall in September, this area got all torn up when we had sewer line issues there. And that area never had a sidewalk through there. And so when we tore out all the plants and everything for the sewer line, city administrator wanted a sidewalk, a temporary sidewalk put in, knowing that it was gonna get probably torn out again sometime in the future when they do the Main Street Road and Sidewalk project, which I think is later in 2026. So a temporary sidewalk was put in there so you could get to the passenger depot. Actually, someone from the street department had this idea of maybe bringing in fill and doing a small retaining wall and then maybe having like a green space there. And we kind of just ran with that and came up with this idea where this area here, you still would have parking, instead of having parking along the chain link fence like you do now down there, you would have continued the on-street parking from that basically starts at Lafayette and ends at the start of that landscaping bed. Well, it would run almost to the passenger depot now, and then you would have a green space area where you could take pictures, you could go there and eat lunch, you could just watch the river, watch the trains go by. And so you can see a couple trees there. This is just preliminary. It's not, nothing in stone or anything. We just needed something to kind of put in here so people had an idea what it could be. There's a landscape bed in there. Whether it looks like that or not, who knows? If it's that big, could be much smaller. There would be like a block wall like what Andy uses on some of his developments. Those big blocks, and the front of them look like boulders on the front, like rocks, where along the chain link fence area. And then on this, I got another thing to pull up here. Let me get out of here. Another option for that area could be, this is something Russ Volmert, if you know him, local landscape architect, drew up. He drew this, he was on the Downtown Washington Inc. Board, and they were at a Main Street conference, and they were in a restaurant, and he kind of drew this up on a napkin, and then put it in, it's page 2, and just threw it in at the corner just randomly before this project with the H tower bed came up, just threw it in there at Oak and Front Street. And the idea is, you see these big tall letters everywhere, like Cardinals have them, I know my college has them, people like to get their pictures taken behind them, and then you put hashtag Washmo and you post it online, and it goes viral and all that stuff. And we could move this concept of some kind of picture thing where school, high school homecoming, prom would get pictures taken behind it. Wedding parties coming in town for bachelorette parties or whatever. You could have your picture taken, just across the street on this green space with the river in the background and all these people standing there and they're putting it on social media, that type of thing. I have no idea what it would cost or anything like that. Sarah Skeen's working on a grant possibly to maybe get some of this funded if it comes to fruition. But like I said, it was just a concept of having something over there where you could get your kind of a picture taken behind it there. See if I can get that back up there.
Can you go back to that map?
Yeah, there we go.
So if I may, Wayne, at the last city council meeting, Charles presented this to the council. Currently, basically kind of where the orange is now, you see the 7 parking spaces that we currently have. And the goal was to try to add a few parking spots down there, everybody thought you could do. So he had a design where if you eliminate, the sidewalk stays on the street, and then they had a slant parking. He could fit 10 spaces in there, and then the retaining wall would be like behind the cars, like where the sidewalk is now, would be the retaining wall. Then you would pull into there, and then you would back out in a slant, and keep the 1 handicap spot up there on the top left. That would give you 10 parking spaces, as opposed to the current 7. And then he came with this, and said if we keep the sidewalk that comes from the east at a straight line all the way through there, and we already have that off-street parking to the east, as you can see, it just stays contingent. And then we have a green space possibility, and it was pretty unanimous with the council that this was worth having down there for a green space area, as opposed to adding 3 spaces, we're gonna add 1 space. But then there is a potential that the handicap spot, as you can see designated there, why not 2? So he was gonna look in to see if that was an option to be able to turn in with that. Tim?
Yeah, he thought he could get another space out of that and have 2 handicap spaces in that corner over there,
Right.
very easily.
Did I explain that right? Yeah. So when it was presented to us, everybody just kind of, it's not we have to vote on it then, but everyone just kind of with the nod of your head, like, yeah, this green space is definitely better to have on the riverfront. Right. Rather than just having a block wall in a parking lot with 10 slanted spaces that, in my book, that's when you back into the wall. That's when you back in, you get a truck that's oversized and you can't get around it or something like that. So,
It's already tight down there, I mean, just.
yes, it's very tight, right?
And the bed, we already do, it was brought up, well, it's gonna be more maintenance on parks. It will be a little more, but we were already taking care of the bed, mulching it and planting it and all that stuff to begin with. Depending on what goes in here, it could be a little more, but I mean, we're not adding, it's not like we're adding acres of land to the park system. You're adding maybe probably not even 1/10 of an acre there, but,
Are you bringing that up to street level?
yeah, it would be street level. Charles says the blocks would be like 1 high, so about 36 inches or
And you
something like
put the
that.
fence on top of that?
Yeah, fence, yeah, on top of that.
And then the little red box is just it's an inlet, storm sewer inlet, and you can see the little horseshoe around there. That would be like your bump out there, because that's what was put in, so that's kind of continuous with what we have downtown already. Not a fan of them on Jefferson Street, but there, I think it's the right spot. No one pulls down in there anymore now. It's just gonna be on-street parking, so.
Would there be any lighting down there?
Yeah, I've been working on this Front Street project with engineering for a couple of years now, trying to address stormwater issues, because the passenger depot gets flooded a lot, which is one of my buildings, and the freight depot. And then we also worked on lighting too, and so there will be new lighting that will, because we have lighting on the east side of Lafayette where the new condos are and stuff, in front of the waterworks, and then it stops. And the plan is to put in lighting then on the other side on the west side of Lafayette, all the way through this area here. And so there might be, we were talking about yesterday, I think it was, there could be 2 lights in this area, like kind of one on each end of the green space, in line with the other lights going down the street.
For the flagpole.
Prior to this concept, though, the lights would have stopped at Oak here, and then, if I remember right, there's a reason, I can't remember why, but then we're gonna have a light or 2 over on this side. But now with this concept, all the lights would be on that side of the street. I can't remember why there was gonna, something on engineering's end, but there was gonna be a light or two on the draft room side of the street.
Oh.
And it was kind of funky. So now it'll be one nice line of lights, continuous. And then, I don't know, as far as what this is called, I'll be long gone, but, I mean, I don't know, we have Heritage Park on the west side, this could be Heritage East, that could be Heritage West, just an idea.
Mhm.
And it also helps with our MS4 report that we're trying to put in green space as opposed to blacktop parking spaces. So that's,
Yeah.
even though it's a small spot, that still is a check mark with MS4 that we're trying to prevent that and help that situation too.
It'll give you a nice balance too, because you've got green space on the other side of the
Yeah.
depot there, so just a nice balance.
Yeah, when this was thrown up, it's like, well, yeah, wow, that looks good. Just a simple concept, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Good spot.
Any other questions regarding that? Staffing verbiage.
So, with your packet, you have a document, on top of it says Ballard King, that's the company that PDS, Planning Design Studios, subcontracted with on the staffing aspect of the master plan. And so I just wanted you to see this. This was not in the plan, it was not ready, when you guys reviewed the draft on April 2nd. And so, I guess two things. It kind of says, and all this is just when we get later into the document here, it's just a suggestion. The city, just like the whole master plan, the city can do whatever it wants to do. We just paid them to give them suggestions. And so you can do staffing like based on population or based on acres of land maintained. And so they kind of did both here, and you can see kind of how they came up with the calculations. I don't want to read all through it for you, but it basically, in the end, it says, if we're going to maintain 551 acres. Now, they talk about 291 and a half acres that what they considered official park, like recognized park acreage. And then we have like a lot of land down along the east and west trail that we do maintain, like if, there's all kinds of sightline issues and you name it down there, beaver problems and all kinds of stuff. If we can, if you take all that in and consider everything that we do in that area, with that area, it's 551 acres. And it'll tell you then, essentially it says for our population acreage and then based around other cities of our population size, that we could be approximately 14 full-time positions short. This is all, each city does something different. A city in Chicago might manage 551 acres, but their operations might be a lot different than ours, that type of thing. But in the end, if you read further and you get to the bullet points towards the end of this first page and then on the back, it kind of tells you their suggestion on where, if we were to add staff, where we might add them. And so we were just discussing this the other day. Dave was there, Stormwater Committee, and the city is wanting Parks Department to kind of maintain one existing stormwater detention basin over by Napa Auto Parts off High Street, and then possibly a new one down here at 8th and Locust by the Greenway Trail. And there was a consultant there, and we were going over plants and what kind of plants, and should they be really beautiful and colorful, or should they be more like low maintenance, like grasses and types and things like that, and then who's going to maintain them. And then it came up, I had staff there, the ops manager was there, the city horticulturist was there, and Darren, the city administrator, was in there at the beginning, had to leave, and then I had to go pull him back. The staff were getting very uncomfortable about not having to do it, but how we were going to be able to maintain these basins, because they're very, just like the medians on Highway 100, they're very high, they can be very high maintenance. If you want them to look good, and that's what the city wants them to look good, because the city wants residents to be able to do, homeowners associations to be able to, they need models to do in these new subdivisions and things like that. And it also needs to be an educational aspect for residents too. So MS4 or DNR is looking at them also. So if they look like crud, that's not doing anyone any good. And to be able to maintain them at a high level, it's gonna take time. Either a contractor's gonna have to do it, or Parks is gonna do it, or someone from the city is gonna do it. So anyways, where I'm going with this is if you look at bullet point number 2, it talks about stormwater impact. And so if the city wants to take that on, there probably needs to be some additional staffing done if it's the Parks Department. Just like what I was telling Darren is, you don't want to go into this like we did with the medians back in 2012 or what it was, where prior administration said, oh yeah, we're going to get a grant for that, it's going to be great, they're going to look beautiful. And there was no plan for maintenance after that. Like, oh, we'll figure it out on the fly. And well, we tried to figure it out on the fly and it wasn't acceptable to the public. And so now we have a contractor doing it. You could very well have a contractor do some of this stuff too, I don't know, but anyways, they're just making a suggestion about if we do take on stormwater projects, we would need some additional staff. Then it talks about maintenance worker 1 and 2 and needing not just an entry-level maintenance worker, but someone with some skills, so welding, painting, carpentry, equipment skills for all these projects we're taking on. I know internally right now that's something we're lacking. We have been gaining people over the last few years since I've been here. A number of them have been entry level, which is great. We need those guys too. But if we want to do big projects, and none of our projects are turnkey, there's always site grade, just like the playground at Optimus. There's always site grading. There's always stuff, and you have to have. Not anyone can just run a Bobcat, and do all the site grading. You have to have experience, and we have to have like a maintenance worker 3 do that type of work. And so they talk about having a little more, if we do hire people, having more skills. And then on the back, it talks about with, everything we have and the town growing, having more programming. And I know there's different groups out there that do programming now, especially at special events and festivals. We know who does that. The Y has some of their programming, but maybe in the future, as the town grows, we need maybe our current recreation coordinator, and who knows when this might be, gets promoted to a supervisor, and then the rec supervisor has an assistant helping them do programming. And then finally, or not finally, but the second last bullet point talks about something I've been talking to the city administrator for a while about, is having an assistant park director and helping me when I get projects, having someone to rely on that I can say, here, this needs to be done, write this bid document. Because some of that falls on Chad right now, depending on what it is, but he doesn't really have time. He needs to be out in the field, making sure the guys are doing what they need to be doing, and checking on projects and ordering supplies. I do it mostly, but then that takes me away from different other projects, special projects, takes me away from administrative stuff that I could be doing with you as this group. That's one thing I felt in my tenure here, is that based on what I saw at other cities I worked at, is I didn't do enough, and it's just a time thing, enough administrative work with you all. Whether that's creating documents, like welcome documents, and we have done a little bit of that, but maybe more involvement with the master plan, and more involvement with our, speaking of which, we probably need to get you one of those manuals when we get a new park board member come on the council, and just so they know like how we function as a parks department. If they don't have any experience, you probably have a pretty good idea from what with your involvement with the fair and everything, but things like that. And so and when the mayor hands me something, or if Darren hands me something, or if I get sucked into a stormwater project, or Washington and Bloom and just stuff like that. And then finally, it talks about park specialty positions. As the department grows and as the city grows, there's a strong likelihood that you might need more specialized positions. He mentions arborists, which we already have. We're very lucky that we have Josh as an arborist and horticulturist, but it could include, depending on where this city wants to go with this, landscape architect. Maybe that person's designing Instead of paying a consultant, maybe that person's designing stormwater detention basins and things like that. And in a project, maybe we have just a project, we have all these projects, maybe we just have a project manager. And then that frees Chad up to do other things, right, you know. So these, like I said, these are just suggestions. It is based on, numbers, so our parkland and our population, so it's not just, they're not just saying, yeah, we like you, we're gonna say you need 5 more people or anything like that. It is based on numbers, so, I guess questions.
Where does this go from here?
So this will go, I just wanted to make sure you saw it because you didn't see it on April 2nd. And so this will be submitted into the final document as a suggestion to the city on staffing. And then that document then, once I get my few other minor edits in, which is really just questions, like there's some numbers I had questioned on, like how did they come up with this type of thing? Where did they pull this? They were looking at city budgets, and I had some questions on the number of seasonal staff they had listed versus full-time, and I was just wondering where they got numbers from, or if it was a typo, that type of thing. Once I get all those answers answered, hopefully in the next few days here, they'll take a couple weeks to make all those changes, and then submit a final document to Chad or Darren or whoever we designate, and then Darren, Chad, whoever that may be, we'll take it to city council for acceptance, and then it will be a working document, just like just like Sal had, the city comp plan. And so if you've been following the city council meetings recently, or the newspaper, Sarah Skeen just did I guess a 1-year review of the city comp plan, maybe it wasn't at city council, maybe it was at, planning zoning meeting. But a 1-year review of what that plan said and how the city, is the city meeting their goals, because I think they had very specific, at year 1, you need to be doing this, 2, 5, 10, 20, and so she did a review of that recently. And so it'll be, it's not meant to just sit on the shelf like, oh, yeah, look, we did this, that type of thing. The next park director, whoever that is, was to come in and say, even though he or she didn't have anything to do with it per se, can start reading it and find out what the projects, we took this master plan and we took projects out of the master plan and put it in, or we're going to, provided they're approved by the committee, into the next half-cent sales tax. But there's a whole, as you know, there's a whole line of other projects for the next 20 years that can be done in the park system. In the next, even the next half-cent sales tax after the one we're gonna be starting in April of 26. So, it's meant for you all to look at. I mean, you all should have a paper copy of it at your house, or at least be able to go to the website and, look it up. It'll be posted on the website. So you always have access there to look at it, and you can go through and review it, like, oh, I thought we talked about this, that type of thing, so.
Okay.
I would encourage you, I can say this because I won't be here, but encourage you to make sure you're using it in the future, for your advantage, so.
Any other questions?
How understaffed are we right now?
It just depends. Darren's the city administrator's been real good about consolidating things and trying, I'm in charge of burials at the city cemetery, and, which I did not know when I took this job. And, we were looking at different ways to not get out of, but how we can do better in some of those aspects. I don't know. I would say we are understaffed. We run around like chickens with our heads cut off most days, and that's me, that's Chad, and that's the guys out on the ground doing the work too. And then if something special pops up, like if the mayor or Darren says, all right, prime example is we were building Main Park Playground back in 2020, I guess it was, and the river dropped enough where we could start working on the East Trail, and so we had to drop what we're doing on the East, at Main Park, and go for a couple months do the East Trail with the street department, and things like that happen. And I would say, in my opinion, we are. I'm not going to put a number on it, but we could always use another like I said, maintenance worker 2 or 3, kind of the skilled ones there. And then, to me personally, would help, but it doesn't matter what I think anymore, to have an assistant director that you can take pressure off the director and take pressure off him too.
Well, that recommendation even means more now, right? I mean, it's not, you're not benefiting yourself, so.
Yeah.
Hey, this, my position should have an assistant, that's easy to say.
Well, and I think you can take it one step further, and something I've thought about for the last couple of years is that, you know, so Wayne's in charge of a lot of the facilities also. I know
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
don't
yeah.
see a lot of that, but, you know, when the roof needs to be replaced on City Hall, Wayne and Chad are spending hours and days here. What do we need? Go out to bid. What do we do first? What do we do second? Letting people know the insulation that's in the roof, does it need to be replaced as we're doing that? These guys are doing that stuff when we think they should be out in the park, and I agree with that. And it's just, as a city, we're not to the point where we have a separate facilities manager, and it falls back on what Wayne has done the whole time, and Chad, and their department too, for that matter. So when you get pulled off and you have that many more, again, if it's in the budget, my opinion is that doesn't need to be the Parks Director's responsibility. That's just my opinion, but until we get to that spot.
And I think, from what I gathered, meeting with the city administrator recently, they're working on a plan for that, maybe with the new director, so maybe that gets shifted somewhere else, and then that would free up some time. Because that is a prime example, like if the HVAC goes out up here in July when it's 110 degrees outside, we scramble, like we drop everything else we're doing, and we got to figure out, you know, who to call, how we going to fix it, yada, yada, yada. And to Jeff's point too is, you know, roofs and HVAC and stuff, we're in charge of it, but we don't really know what we're doing. You know, it takes us a while to figure out what we're, like, I don't know anything about a rubber roof, and Chad doesn't know a ton, but we're learning. But, you know, that's part of it too, is we're doing things that we don't have a lot of experience with either.
So if this recommendation is approved by the council, does that mean and they approve this 14 additional people or the assistant part?
Well, they're accepting the
But I was gonna
document,
say-
but not,
See,
they're all everything in there is just a suggestion, so
I know that, but
they're not tied to
will the
anything.
council take this and say, that's never gonna happen, or will they take it into consideration?
Well-
And maybe have a goal to be at this level in 15 years or 10 years?
I don't know, I mean, if you ask me personally, I don't know that we would ever get 14, unless a lot of things would have to change, I would think. For us to have 14 additional people, that would put us at like 30-something people. It all depends, I think I could see the city doing is you gradually add people, like what we've been doing over the last few years. You gradually add people and then kind of see how you do there, and then maybe if you're still struggling, you add a few more and that type of thing, and you maybe slowly build your way up.
So then
But that's a lot of,
Well, then the
lot of
council,
money.
can say something more realistic, like, okay, our goal should be to get it up maybe a half a dozen more people.
yeah, I mean, that would be all internal conversations that the city administrator
In
and
my
council.
opinion,
and
Sparky, I think that, yeah, the 14 is a high number, just because we know what we do on a daily basis.
It's almost double.
Yeah, it would be, almost double.
But also in that Parks Master Plan was a lot of things that just seem like over-the-top dream, I think, to all of us.
Yeah.
And I guess I take this full-time employee a little bit more serious than I do some of those pipe dream park things. So but in my opinion, it's all an exaggeration of what we currently do. You know, I guess some of the numbers that they threw out at that is just, I mean, millions and, you know, we're not gonna have $60 million in the next 5 years to build everything we want in this town.
Really?
And we're not gonna have 14 new employees in the parks.
I can't believe that.
To do what we want. So it all comes with, like I said, in time and in stride, in my opinion. Now, let me go back to say, I'm not trying to say that Wayne and Chad have not done a good job on facilities. I'm not saying that we're doing it, those guys do a great job. I just think that it needs to be someone else on a daily basis. And then whether
It's gonna
that.
be their job. You know,
Sorry?
if that is taken off of them, then that's gonna free
Right,
them
if we had
up,
a
and
facilities
so maybe
manager
they'll need
and
6
two
new
employees
people
in
rather than-
facilities or whatever, then that's like having 3 employees in a park. You know, that's how, you know, you would take some of the responsibilities off of them and that number of 14 goes down.
So do you see a facilities manager in the near?
Well, I think Darren's working on that, and I guarantee, there's one reason,
I know.
and that's our budget. I mean, it just really is. And now, I mean, Al and I started wanting our salary increase. You know, I mean, you're talking $1 million a year more than we currently pay in salaries to get people back up to, you know,
No,
to
I
compete
get
with everyone else around here. And that's a big pill to swallow every, you know, our 5-year plan is, I mean, that's huge, but that's what it takes. And it's just not, you know, it's not like we have this bank of money and we're just holding back from hiring 6 new people. That's not the case at all. I mean, if the budget was there, we'd have them doing it.
And just for clarification, how we got to this point was right before I started 6.5 years ago. Prior to that, these buildings up here, so public safety, city hall and library, had one full-time maintenance person in that building. And I don't know how and then that included passenger depot and freight depot and stuff like that. But, I guess, I don't know how they did big projects back then, like if the AC broke or the roof leaked or whatever, but, the thought process was, we'll give building maintenance to parks because they have a lot of parks, or not, a lot of buildings in the parks, and they have staff taking care of those buildings, which is true. But then when we took on all these buildings, all these buildings are historic and very old and have lots of problems. And so I feel like prior to me coming on and really the Parks Department taking over building maintenance, nothing was really done. They just let a lot of stuff go to save money, and then we inherited a really bad situation and had to try to correct it as best we could. And I think we've done a good job of doing it. We've got, you know, a new HVAC at the library and a new roof at the library in 2019, and one new roof here and a partial new system here, and public safety's getting part of a new system this summer, and you know, and we've renovated Waterworks and the freight depot, and the list goes on. And so we've done a lot of things to make, you know, if it gets separated from our department, to make someone else's life hopefully a little bit easier in the future, because a lot of that stuff will be new now instead of 30 years old or older. So that's kind of just the history on how it became part of the Parks Department. That happened like right before I got here in probably 2018, I guess.
I guess one thing you're asking about, one of your ideas was adding additional staff to do the detention retention basins. Does that funding then come out of water wastewater to pay for that position?
It could. There was one thing long time ago when John Nilges was here, we started discussing this very concept, and that it could maybe partially be funded by stormwater, but that's really.
Looking big picture across the whole MS4, are there other areas in the parks? We take care of streams, we take care of all kinds of things that help that MS4 permit. Is there a way to get additional funding based on funding sources of water, stormwater?
Yeah.
Maintaining these things, but paying for it out of parks.
There are, we are doing things in the Parks Department now that are funded by the stormwater fund, including the contractor that takes care of the medians, that's paid for out of stormwater. There's some rock and erosion issues that we've had in various parks. That has been paid, like the materials have been paid for from stormwater.
The riverfront bank stabilization.
Yeah, that'll
probably be a stormwater fund there, not out of the, you know, and again, we talked about there too, where the stormwater runs out, there's silt in there, you know, so hopefully we have an excavator down there, you can include those projects also, but the plan is to include that into the stormwater fund. The river's our biggest stormwater system there is, so. So there is things like that happen that doesn't directly come out of the parks budget, but actually stormwater. Yeah.
Lions Lake, for all intents and purposes, is a big detention pond, big detention basin.
Sure is.
Yep.
Wayne, I for one want to thank you for all your time, and you did a
Thank you.
fantastic job.
Thank you. It's been fun.
That's,
You guys have been great to work for, you know. You're entertaining, you're fun, you know, you get out and do stuff, and all the projects we did, all the people I met, people I worked with. It's been good.
I personally believe that in my 18 years now on the park board, you've been the best.
Oh.
I really enjoyed your communication, in my opinion, has been second to none. And I hope we get somebody who communicates as well as you do.
Yeah, that's
You've
important.
I would agree
been-
with
Good, like, you know, I pointed out a while ago, here's a prime example. of administrative stuff that I could be doing for you all that I don't have time to do, and as a department, we don't really have time to do, for a variety of reasons, but like reports, like financial reports, like how many pavilion rentals we have in the summer, and what that money includes, and the pool passes, and how many we sold, and how much revenue we generated, and all that stuff. That's just one thing that I have help with that, but it is, a lot of it falls on me to, check and double check and know what numbers to pull and things like that, but there's other staff in my department that would be helping me with that are also pulled in 800 directions too during a day, and so, like I said, that's just one thing, but I could assign that to assistant park director, like, give me a quarterly report for park board that includes blah, 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 that type of thing.
Well, I think you should be proud of the accomplishments that the park have done in the last 7.5 years, or
6.5, yeah.
6.5 years, and I think, I speak for the entire park board that we're gonna miss you, and we wish you luck in Chesterfield, and I think you'll do a great job there. And Al, it's been a pleasure with you, so and Tim, welcome to the park board, and it's always good to have you around, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bad penny.
So,
Sparky.
and I'm, pardon me?
Should make a motion commending him or thanking him for what he's done? I mean, does it need to be that
I don't
official?
think, I don't
Okay.
know if we need a motion to
Okay.
thank you, I don't
Thank you.
think so.
No, thank you.
I think he knows how we all feel,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But, Tessie wanted me to remind you, next Wednesday, open house at her and John's house, from 4 to 6, and you're invited to.
Good. I look forward to it. I was just there last night, actually, though. I will say, last thing is, my office, if you guys know where Chesterfield Athletic Complex is,
Yeah.
if you're going west on 40, the first building you see at the athletic complex got a blue roof on it. It's like a real building. And their park maintenance yard is there. My office will be there, so if you're ever bored or you're in the area during the day, working hours, you want to stop in and say hi, stop in and say hi.
Will do.
Well, if you see something that, when you get there, and you go, man, Washington could really use that, make sure you
Oh,
pass that
yeah.
kind of stuff along.
Yeah.
Will do.
Please thank your family for us too, because you
A lot of effort, a lot of
have put
time.
in a lot of time for us, and we appreciate that.
Will do.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Motion to adjourn?
You have the meeting set on here for June 5th. That's the night of the
Oh, yeah.
ribbon cutting and that. I don't think that's the night for meeting, is it?
Is that a Wednesday?
Oh, no.
That's
I
Thursday.
thought it was the 11th.
Oh, did I, maybe I have a typo, huh?
I mean, it'd
Well,
be nice
it's-
to do it, but I think you're gonna have too much going on that night to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually,
It's the 11th, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
what?
oh, yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, I don't know how I got
$11.
all messed up there. Well, won't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah, June 11th.
Catch. I didn't see that, yeah.
Sorry about that.
That was his parting gift to see.
Yeah, see if you guys read the agenda.
Back to a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Kevin, second by Bob, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
See you, Wayne.
All right.
I know. No cheers. No cheers.